Hi, it is a privilege to have you here with me, Petra Demuse, a soulful, honest woman over 50, navigating life's most tender transitions with courage and grace. I am a woman who's weathered the storms of two divorces, raised children into adults, embraced the joy of grandchildren, and learned, perhaps for the first time, how to stand comfortably in my own solitude. Each episode explores the profound wisdom that comes with age, the lessons etched in heartache, the beauty found in unexpected places, the laughter that bubbles up in the quiet, and the peace that settles when we stop running from ourselves. With reflections on love, loss, aging, happiness, and the sacredness of this one wild and precious life, Stand Up and Redo is a companion for anyone who's learning to live fully after everything they thought would last has changed. This is a space for late bloomers, early bloomers, deep feelers, and fierce survivors. Come for the comfort, stay for the truth, and live a little lighter each time.
And this one's going to be about mentors and the power of a mentor. I want to start, of course, again with telling you some stories. I think stories are just valuable and they actually really make a person relate. So I'm going to start with telling you about the mentors in my life that were very influential. And when I look back, I was trying to think of when I first had a mentor. And when I was a lot younger, like, preschool, school age, prior to high school, I don't feel like I really had a mentor. I feel like I had people who influenced me and maybe inspired me or had certain characteristics that I would have wanted to have or that I appreciated as a young child, or maybe some words of wisdom that people said, but not a true mentor. I didn't have a mentor probably until I was, 15 years old, I'd say. And most all the mentors, when I was thinking back, that I've had in my life, because I'm only going to tell you about like a few, very few, and compared to all the ones that I've had, and they're all men, which just blows my mind. I'm like, wait a minute, how didn't I have any women mentors? But the ones that I had that were the most influential in my life were men. The first one was a man who was not my teacher in high school or anything. He was actually a bartender. And how I'm going to tell you about him is interesting. I loved to run when I was a young girl. And I would run. I started running when I was 12 years old, believe it or not. I I was very stressed. My home was very small, and I had a little brother and sister who were 10 and 13 years younger than me, and mom and dad who were, someone was always home at night, and the house was very crowded. And I just remember feeling stressed and just running, like running literally out the back door of the kitchen. And we had a little, we called it the ditch, but it was actually a path that went along the railroad tracks. We had a railroad track right next to our house. And it was so close. I mean, I could look out of the window and watch the train go by a couple times a day. But the path was what I would run on, and I'd run up to a place called the Spirit of 76, which is an ice cream parlor, and it was probably only about 3/4 of a mile, and then I'd run home. And then I would instantly feel this release of stress. I was only 12 years old. I can't even describe. Well, I think you figure out what relieves you of stress, and once you find that, you keep doing it. So I kept running. Um, well, I was 15, and my cousin and I wanted to get a new job. I had been working at an ice cream parlor for 2 years, at a place called Cold Spring Village, and it was near my house because I always had to ride my bike to work. I didn't really always have rides because my father worked, and then my mother was at that time a stay-at-home mom with two little babies. So life was a lot different I had a lot of freedom, but I did also have to ride my bike to work. So we wanted to make more money. My cousin and I were both, we didn't have a lot of money. Our parents didn't have a lot of money. And we needed money actually just to get by. Like, we needed money to buy school clothes and to do things that other kids didn't have to worry about working for. We actually worked for things that we needed every day. And we wanted to go down and get a job in a restaurant in Cape May, which is a beach town. And we knew that if we could be bus girls, we could make a boatload of money because we had heard from everybody else that that was where most of the money was for someone who was only 15. So that's what we did. We ran 5 miles through Cold Spring and over the canal. There's like a canal that separates the little Cape May proper from the rest of Cape May County. We ran over the canal bridge, ran into town, and basically we're in our little shorts and t-shirts and hot and sweaty, and decided we were going to go to our first restaurant. Actually, it's the only one I remember going to. I'm sure we went to more than this one, but I think because I got a job at this one, I remember. But it was Summers. It was on the corner in Cape May, right on, I believe, Decatur Street and Ocean Drive. Anyway, we went in and knocked on the door, and it was closed. So we knocked on the front door, and the manager was there. I guess they were getting ready for the night, and the bartender was there, and they were two men dressed, nice. They had, because the bartender had his white shirt, and I think he had to wear, I felt like he had to wear black pants, so maybe he was wearing khaki pants. Insignificant part of the story. But anyway, so there was a bartender there and the manager, and they were very welcoming to us. And they were astonished that we had run. We ran 5 miles to get there. We just ran. We just were like, okay, let's run there. So we ran there. We asked them if we could fill out applications. And that was the first time I met this man who, believe it or not, was going to be my mentor. And it was the bartender. And I won't use his real name. Let's call him Simon. I like the name Simon. Actually, I really liked his name. His name is one of my favorite male names. But either way, we're going to give him a different name. It's Simon. So I became a bus girl with my cousin, and the two of us worked as much as possible. We were little workaholics, and I even had another job. I would go clean a restaurant, like behind that one in the mornings, when my aunt cleaned it like every 5 days a week, so I would clean it 2 days a week, and then I would do that in the day and then come to my evening job as a bus girl at this restaurant. Well, the bartender, to me, I didn't think, oh, this man is so handsome. But I know that all the waitresses and would all just talk about him like he was just like the most amazing, most handsome person. And as time went on, I could see why they would think so, because his personality was just warm and he was very kind. And he was probably, I don't even know how old he was. He might have been 29 or 30 years old. He was balding a little bit. He was very in good shape, very trim. And the reason he was in good shape was because he was a triathlete. And I, of course, that was just awesome for me because I loved running, and I actually rode my bike, not because I loved to ride my bike. I had to ride my bike to get to work. I actually do now love to ride my bike, and it's interesting because at the time, I didn't think of it that way, but it was very freeing to just jump on a bike and get to where you needed to go if you didn't have a car. And either way, I used to have to ride my bike to work, and I would often ride my bike to my morning job and then I would ride my bike sometimes back home and then back to the evening job. But sometimes you didn't want to leave and you needed a place to get, like, it, you would be sweaty and gross and you'd want to then go to your night job. So I remember he let me and my cousin, at this time I had another cousin who ended up working there. So I have a lot of cousins. I believe it or not, I have more than 50 first cousins because my father had 15 brothers and sisters. I love saying that. It just sounds so all-inspiring. Like, what? 15? Yeah, but he had 7 sisters and 7 brothers. So I had a boatload of cousins all in that little town of Cape May. Well, my other cousin, her and I both were working, and we would go to the beach in the summertime in the morning before we go to work. Oh my goodness. Before we go to work. So we would be all nasty. And he said, because he knew we had to ride our bike home the full 5 miles and back again, he's like, well, why don't you just use my apartment? I'm never there. You can get cleaned up in it. He was actually training for the triathlon, so he was always either running or going on these long bikes. And the time that we would need the apartment, he said he knew he was not going to be there. He said, you can just use it. I'll give you the key, or I'll tell you where I hide the key, and you can just go in and use it. He goes, I always have usually tuna in the fridge, sprouts and salad. He goes, if you want to eat some of the food, go ahead, you're welcome to it. And it was just really, wow. I was like, wow, that's great. So we're like, okay, well, that's what we'll do. We'll just use his shower in the afternoon. And think about that. We're 15, and he's probably 28, 29, or 30. Don't know. And it just probably could look a little bit sketchy if you were someone looking in from outside. And I do remember, this is kind of funny, but he always had these beautiful, beautiful girlfriends. Beautiful. And I feel like I remember this one woman with red hair. We just showered and we got all dressed at his apartment, me and my cousin, and we were leaving to go to work. And we hear a knock on the door. Just as we were getting ready to leave, we're like, somebody's knocking on his door. So we opened the door, and here we're standing there, and she looked at us like, who are you, and what are you doing here? And we were just like, oh, he just lets us use his, Simon just lets us use the apartment. And it was just, after we left, we just ran down the stairs, and we were like, oh, no. It was just like, did we just get him into trouble? But either way, I don't think he was bothered. He just was this happy-go-lucky guy that no matter what, he just always looked so confident and settled and serene and happy with himself. And he just was a good soul. He was a good soul, and that's all I'll say about him. But what I will tell you is, through the course of that friendship, and it was like a friendship, and it was never, he was not a creeper. He didn't say anything inappropriate, and he was not all over trying to see what our schedules were like. There was nothing like that. He was just a very friendly person, and he knew that I liked to work out. And I remember he used to swim at the Coast Guard base in the morning, and I was on the swim team at school. So he's like, if you want to come swim at the Coast Guard base with me, I could get you in. So I did meet him a couple of times really early, and I was very driven as a young girl. I realize now how insanely, I do think I was really driven, not compared to most people, but I think back to how insane I was. I would get up at super early in the morning to go meet him at the pool, maybe 6 a.m., and then go to my one job, and then go to the beach for an hour, meet a friend, and then go to my second job, and then get home at midnight, and then get up and do it all over again. And I'm like, how the heck did I do that? It just blows my mind. And I mean, I did stuff like that all my life, I guess, where I kind of burned the candle at both ends. But the mentor part of him was just, and this was his kindness, and even just seeing how he went about his day and he was so disciplined. And I had never really been around anybody like that, I guess. The discipline that he had. My family was very, my dad was an artist and my mom was kind of dreamy and all over the place. And they were kind of like, I don't want to say hippies when I was really young, but they really were kind of like a hippie lifestyle. And it was just kind of like, I didn't feel like I was real disciplined. I mean, we had dinner every night, and we had, but I felt like my life was a little chaotic. And just seeing him and watching how he was working towards his goals and his dreams and things that he was going to accomplish. And it was just really neat. And then I remember when I started running cross country, he was really into photography, and he did come and he took a couple pictures of our cross country meets. And I think he just really enjoyed watching the competition of the run. You know, he was a runner, he was an athlete. And I thought it was really neat because then he gave me some photos of myself running at the meet. And then I ended up getting in a really bad, I ended up when I was 17, I was at the height of my running career, you know, in high school. I'm bragging about a running career, but I had run cross country and then was in winter track and then also was just started spring track. So I was in really great shape. And I was 17 years old and I got into a car accident that totaled my car and it put me in, I broke my hip and my knee and I was in traction, I believe, for like 12 weeks of traction in the hospital, and my whole life changed. It changed in an instant. And I remember he actually mailed me some odd things to my house. They weren't odd, actually. They were very, for considering what he was. He sent me like a pair of running socks with a letter, just like inspiring me to get better. And then he sent me like a t-shirt and just things that like were very inspiring as a young girl to feel motivated to get better. And I don't remember if he came to visit me when I was in traction. I know that he did not live in Cape May full time. I feel like his home was in Maryland. I can't remember where he lived, honestly. But he didn't necessarily live in Cape May. I think that was like his summer gig or whatever. And then I do think he went on to get a more professional job in sales. And I did look him up later. I did Google him at one point in my life just because I was so curious whatever happened to him. And he had married a woman who was an athlete, and they had, I don't remember everything that they did because it was a long time ago that I guess I say Googled him, but looked him up, and it was neat because he did do some things with his life that were very positive, and it was neat to see that. But I think he was a mentor for me because I can't imagine if he wasn't in my life at that time and I didn't see the discipline that he had and be so close to someone that was just like that. And I really enjoyed his presence in my life. I enjoyed knowing him even for the brief time that I knew him. And then the fact that he took a moment out to be inspirational to a young girl who really needed it at a rough time. It was just very nice. And I remember, I have to tell you a funny part of the story. So my father found out that I was going to some man's apartment to take showers. And my poor father, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine the stuff that I put him through. But I remember just saying to my dad, "Oh, Dad, Simon, he's gay. He doesn't even like girls." And I was just, that's horrible that I said that to my dad. But I just wanted to make him feel like at ease that this man had no interest in us. And we just, it's just like, so I just had to share that part of the story. But so Simon was a mentor for me. And that was when I was 15. Okay, so then another mentor for me was a teacher, a male teacher at school. And this also has to do with running. So I'm sorry if you're not a runner or you can't relate, but I was running when I was 16. When I was running with the worst shoes you could run with. I didn't have running shoes. I had like those cheap sneakers that you buy at like, if you even can relate to this, because if you're my age, you'll know what I'm talking about. We used to call them Bobos, and we get them at Kmart, and they were just the cheapest possible sneakers you could run with. I can't even. My feet weren't damaged, so I think I actually have pretty strong feet even now. I'm 54, but at the same time, when I was running and I wasn't in a sport, I was just wearing whatever sneakers I had that weren't the greatest sneakers. And I remember my cousin, I'll call her Elle, she actually wanted me to join the swim team that year. It was actually sophomore year, and I was not into sports other than I was athletic when I was a little girl, very athletic. Did a lot of athletic things, but I had never done any kind of real sport until high school. And sophomore year, I remember my cousin Elle had a crush on this guy. His name was Joe. And I remember she's like, would you join the swim team with me, please? And the only reason she wanted to join the swim team was to be near him. And I was like, I'll join the swim team if you. I had found out that they had a cross country team. And so I ran by myself for stress relief. And actually, then it became pleasure. I ran for pleasure. And all of a sudden, I found out that there was this thing called a cross country team. Well, I found out it was only boys. And I was like, what? And I was like, this isn't fair. So then I found out, and I don't know who started the girls' club, but I found out that they were going to have a girls' club for cross country, and the girls could actually run with the boys' team as a club. So it ended up, first off, I couldn't even believe this was possible. Like, there's actually something that they do for a sport, running through the woods. It's like my dream. So she said, yes, I'll do cross country with you if you do the swim team with me. So we joined cross country, and it was the best thing I ever did, and I was so excited. And I remember I walked up to the coach, and I immediately gave him a hard time. I just said, hey, I have to go to work. Like, I have a job. It doesn't, like, the season doesn't end till the end of October, and I have to be at work by 4:30 or 4 o'clock, I think. So school got done at 2:30. I think I had to be on the floor ready to serve food or be there as a bus girl at 4:30. And practice went till 5. So I just said to him, hey, I said, you know what I'll do? I'll get out, like we get out at 2:20. I'll start running literally at 2:30 because I think practice started at 3 o'clock or 2:45 or whatever, or maybe started at 3. I forget. But either way, it didn't start right when school ended. You had like this like 30 minute gap. And I said, I'll just start running. You just tell me what the course is and I'll do it before everybody starts, and I'll almost be finished by the time you guys start, and then I can just ride my bike to work because I have to work. And I could tell I could just feel it. He was a little bit like frustrated, but he let me do it. He's like, okay. And he probably was thinking, okay, this is just a club. She can do this. I don't know what he was thinking, honestly, but I was able to do that. And I think the funny thing is I probably was in such great shape because you figure I would do like a cross country run, and then I would jump on my bike and ride 5 miles to work, and then I ride 5 miles home. It was insane. Oh, and then I had to ride my bike to school so that I could ride my bike to work after school. It was just crazy. I rode my bike so much. I didn't even think about it. I probably did a little biathlon every day. Like, it was crazy. But it was life, and it just was what I did. And I remember him saying, you're going to need sneakers. You're going to have to go buy running shoes. And I said, okay, come to practice the next day. Don't have the right shoes on. He's like, I think two times he told me, you need to go buy running shoes. Finally, I privately said to him, because I was uncomfortable, I needed to wait until I saved up enough money from working, with my tips or my paycheck or whatever I was going to get. I said I probably could go maybe on Saturday, next Saturday. I'll probably have enough money to go get these shoes that you want me to get. And I just will never forget him just looking at me like, what? I had no money to go get shoes. I had to wait to get shoes with my own money. And I think it's interesting. I honestly worked to be able to, like I said, afford life. Like, my parents didn't have any extra money, and sometimes they didn't even have money to pay the bills or get the groceries that we needed all the time. We were always so tight with money, and I had to be a contributor. So I just didn't know what else to tell him other than, and I think you could tell it was frustrating because I was running in these like horrible shoes. Horrible. I think they literally were those little white flat ones from Kmart. And so he pulled me aside. I remember he said, "Hey, I want to talk to you." This was like maybe the next day, or it was within a day or two. He goes, "I want to talk to you." And he took me outside, and we're standing. I can still remember where we were standing. We were standing by the dumpsters out back. And he goes, "I want to give you something." And I can't remember how he knew what shoe size I was, but he opens up this box, and in the box is a pair of, I feel like they were Saucony or New Balance, and I guess that's not that important, but to me it is important because I feel like it was Saucony shoes, running shoes. He goes, "Here, try these on." I put them on, and they fit. And he goes, there you have running shoes now. And he's like, and I looked at him, and I remember saying to him, well, my cousin Elle can't afford running shoes either. And she's going to need some too. And it was just like, I remember I just looked at him and I really, really just liked this man so much. He was just an amazing, amazing person, that he didn't humiliate me, first off, in front of people, that he gave me this pair of shoes. And I think he ended up, I think almost the whole team ended up getting these shoes. And I know he had to go to the school and ask them if this was going to be okay. I mean, I know it was, he had to be an advocate for us. And a lot of the girls on that cross country team, there were 5 of us that were that first year. And I have to tell you, this is the benefit for him. And I know it brought him joy. I just know it did. Here we had 5 girls, and it takes 6 to be a team. I think you have to have 6 runners to make it a meet, to make it a valid meet. And we were going to go to the first meet, and we were not planning on being a team, but he decided, I think he was noticing how fast we were running, and he's like, I want you guys to be a team or whatever. So instead of just being this club, all of a sudden he went to the coach of the first team, and of course they're not looking at us as a threat because we're just this little motley crew of eclectic girls who was the first year that we ever ran. And he said to the coach, he said, can we make this official? I only have 5 girls. And the coach said, yeah, we'll run our girls against your girls. And the 2 coaches shook on that. Well, we beat them. We really beat them. And they were actually one of the other teams, one of the best teams. So, of course, that's the first meet that we're in, and we beat them. And then it went on that we were, and this blew my mind, we were undefeated against all these other girls' teams that had been established. And it was just the neatest thing. And I remember our little group of girls, we would actually huddle together before every meet and we would say a prayer. We'd actually be like, "Dear Lord, please help us to win this meet today." And I remember he would look at us. I mean, he must have been like, I just imagine him shaking his head like, here we are, this little group of girls saying our prayer before the meet. We all have our little sneakers that he bought us, and then we're all kicking butt. And I loved that year. It felt so good, and and then there's these girls that you're just running with that you won't ever forget them. I can still see them in my head, running all of us, and we were all so unique and so different. And that's what was so neat about that little cross country team. We weren't like this little clique of like girls that are like, come on. We were like this, just each of us was our own individual, just trying something new for the first time. And it was just really neat. And we did really well. I'm really proud of us. And I think we went on, well, first we were undefeated. And the interesting thing, this is what was really cool. We went to that district or regional competition dinner, and we were going to be announced as the winners of the, I don't know if it's district or region. I don't know. I feel I should know that. But either way, the other coach, that first coach, that other team that we beat, the first team, was also undefeated against everyone but us. So he tried to contest our win by saying that we weren't really a team because we only had 5 girls. But yet he had shook the hand of my coach and agreed. So, anyway, that man that was my coach, changed my life. He really did. I think the sneakers, for one thing, he could have been a real nasty person to me about that. And he noticed a need and he was an advocate for it. And I just think so highly of him. And I mean, there's so much more I could say nice about him just through time, but I'm gonna let it be with that. And just that I thought that story was really neat. And his thoughtfulness has never been forgotten. And I have decided in my life that I stand up and I redo the way I'm going to do things by reaching out, especially to people who maybe don't have a lot of money or who just need a hand up or just need the smallest little thing can be so inspirational for someone, whether it be like noticing that someone, I don't know, just like little things that you can do for people that are kind. And he just showed me kindness. And okay, moving on, because I'm just going on and on and on and mumbling at this point. A third mentor is a woman. And this is a woman when I was older. I was in my 30s. Wow. I can't believe I think 30s. I'm like, wow, that was like so long ago. But either way, I had started a job at Lancaster Regional Medical Center. I had moved here as a 30-year-old divorcee with 3 children, was alone with the 3 kids because I'll just say my ex-husband had some things he was dealing with and he abandoned them. And I'll just say it, he did. He abandoned them. And either way, I won't say he abandoned me, even though I'll just say he abandoned them. He abandoned us, but really I was going to be okay. It was my 3 children that I needed to take care of them. So I had a job, Lancaster Regional Medical Center, and met this woman. And she was, I'll say significantly older than me, but probably like 15 or years older than me at least. She was older, and I remember she kind of looked like a mom, like an older gosh, I don't want her to hear this because she's like, what? I was like a mom. But like, she didn't look like the type of person that would do what I'm going to tell you she did. Her and I think she knew I was like to be outside and I was like an outdoorsy person and I like to ride my bike. I like to do like fun stuff. And she's like, hey, do you want to go bike riding after work? And I'm like, sure. We were both nurses in endoscopy. We would sedate patients and we were pre and post. You know, we worked in an endoscopy unit where you do colonoscopies and AGDs. It was in the hospital. And she's like, okay, well, my son, his name was Kevin. She's like, my son Kevin is not home, but I have his bike and I have my bike. Do you want to go bike riding after work? I said, sure. So here she had mountain bikes. Okay. So I drive to her house. She has these bikes all loaded up, ready to go. And she's like, did you ever go mountain biking before? And I'm like, no, never. So I'd never mountain biked in my whole entire life. And she has these 2 mountain bikes. First off, like I said, she looks like a mom. Like she looked much like the kind of mom that you go see after school and she'd be baking brownies or cookies for you. Like, you know, anyway, so all of a sudden we're driving like 30 minutes away to this place where these Boy Scouts go hiking and camping up these like, I think they were mountains with rocks. And we are on these bikes in mountain biking, like true mountain biking, not just like a little gravel trail that's flat or maybe has a couple little hills. We're like going over rocks. We're climbing this hill. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, I've never done anything like this before. It was invigorating. It felt amazing. And I actually really liked going uphill. And then when we got to the top of this hill, she goes, and I will never forget it, because I had 3 children and I was a single mom. I paid my own mortgage, paid every one of my own bills, had nobody helping me do anything. I was taking care of everything financially. And all of a sudden, I watched this woman. She goes, okay, I'm going down. And she just goes, woohoo! And she just like flies down this hill as fast as she can on this bike. And she's like, you know, traversing rocks and turning around corners. And I'm like, oh, I actually went behind her. And I'll be honest, it was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. Ever. And I remember thinking, what is wrong with me? I could die. I could be maimed. I could not be able to pay my mortgage. It's so sad. All I was thinking was, if I can't pay my mortgage, what am I going to do? So the next day, I remember I went and bought insurance for myself. I went and got short-term disability because I thought, I was like, what would happen if I hurt myself? And I did a little research, and then I found out that I didn't have short-term disability. I just had long-term disability. So I went the next day and just got all these insurances. But the reason I'm talking about that part of the story is this woman, her and I together moved up the corporate ladder. She became the manager then of the unit that we worked on, and I was under her. And then she became the director, and then I became the manager. And it was just really neat because the 2 of us, and then she became the director of more than just, you know, she became the director of the whole entire OR, you know, like PACU everywhere. And then I became the clinical manager over all those areas that she was the director over. And it was really neat because I remember there were just qualities about her that were strong. First, she would critique the way I did things in a way that helped me to learn. Like if I did an email a certain way, she would teach me how to make it more professional. If I had to handle conflict, we would discuss, like with employees, we would discuss it first. And I felt like we came forward with a very fair approach. But then I watched her do amazing things for even patients. Like, she would always think of the other person. Like, if someone was hurting, she would bring them a huge meal, like in a crock pot. If there was like, if it was going to be like a really hot day, she would like advocate for patients' families and be like, okay, we need to give them ice, we need to have a big ice bucket in here with water for them. Like, she's always one step ahead with her thought process of how to be kind and to do things for other people. And she was a workaholic. And I remember her staying real late at night. And the two of us both did. We'd make coffee. We'd go get coffee late at night. And we'd stay in our offices and we would just keep like checking on each other on projects and working on projects together. And we just really, I'd like to believe that I was a strong support for person for her, but her, just everything about her was a person that I wanted to be like, and I was privileged to actually have an office right next to hers, to work under her, and to just be able to bask in the her, what she could share with me. And I have used that. I have gone on to higher level positions in my life in different hospitals and different places, and still just that ethic and that the way that she worked and the way that she could foresee, she would make a change or take an action that would make things better for people without batting an eyelash. She just did it. And I really have learned a lot from her. So my third mentor was a woman, but I do have other mentors. Those were the three I think that were very influential in my life. Two in high school there, and then one as an adult woman in her 30s. So I've had a lot. And I think for me, when you think about the stand up and redo, is I can honestly tell you when I do need to stand up and redo, I pull in all that I have learned from them. And I think I'm going to say something to you that I felt defeated, and this is coming to present day. I had a horrible breakup recently, and I don't want to talk about it too much, but I did this thing, this meditation, and it was Tyus Gibbons, and it was actually where you would meditate and you would think about things from your past, like that made you feel good enough or strong enough or capable. And I can tell you that my stand up and redo would be to tell you when you're struggling and you're depressed to take a moment and just meditate on a time when you did feel good enough, when you did feel strong enough. And those mentors were the ones that did that for me. My coach, he made me feel good enough to have that pair of sneakers, you know. The bartender, he made me feel good enough or valued enough to send me a gift when I was struggling in traction and to send me letters. And that woman that was my boss, she made me feel good enough to take the time to just teach me. And then she just saw value in me that not many people did see value in me. I mean, that's not true. I think people do see value in me at times, but she really did make me feel loved, honestly. And I think if you're going to stand up and redo something, if you're struggling and you're struggling with feeling good enough or strong enough or whatever it is, take a moment, meditate on a mentor that you've had in your life. And if you haven't had a mentor, meditate on just some words of kindness that you had in your life, or some love or affection that was shown to you at some point in your life. And redo with those thoughts that you are good enough, you are strong enough, you're valuable. And there you go. Thank you. I appreciate you joining this podcast.
I have 3 quick corrections. The podcast where the woman does the meditation for 21 days, it's the Tyus Gibson podcast. It was fantastic. It was really helpful with helping me heal. The other correction is silly, but it was not Decatur and Ocean Ave. It was Decatur and Beach Drive, which I guess now is called Beach Ave. That was the address of that restaurant. And then the third correction is just that director that I worked under in Lancaster. I was the clinical manager over most all of our areas. There were a couple areas that someone else was managing. But those are my 3 quick corrections that I wanted to share with you. Here is my disclaimer. This podcast is a work based on the personal experiences, reflections, and memories of the speaker. The events described are true to the best of the speaker's knowledge and recollection. Some names, locations, identifying characteristics, and timelines have been changed or altered to protect the privacy of the individuals involved. In some cases, composite characters have been created, or dialogue has been reconstructed based on memory. The intention of this podcast is not to defame, malign, or harm any individual or entity. Rather, it is to share the speaker's journey with honesty, vulnerability, and integrity. Any opinions expressed are solely those of the speaker and are not intended as statements of fact regarding any person, group, or organization. Listeners should keep in mind that human memory is inherently subjective and selective, and while every effort has been made to ensure accuracy, this podcast reflects the speaker's perspective and truth. Thank you.